Well, hello again. Day 4. I promised that we were going to start inlaying, and I guess I lied because we decided to make another change to the guitar. That's the beauty of doing a spec guitar, is I can just do whatever I want when I feel like it. We decided to take off about an eighth of an inch off the headstock and replate it with this beautiful piece of rosewood. It's going to match the neck, and we're also going to do rosewood on the pickguard. So as you can see, I've already got this piece of rosewood to size, and I've also put a couple of holes in it so I can use it as a centering guide to get right over the truss rod hole. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself some rosewood dust. Now, I'm going to use the rosewood dust to color the epoxy. And I'm going to use epoxy because I want to make sure I fill any gaps that might occur. And I don't have enough epoxy, so I'm going to turn the camera off and fix that problem. Be right back with you. Okay, got some new epoxy here. This is exciting. I'll actually have enough. It does help to make sure you got enough glue when you start. Not a big problem. Now we're just going to mix up this epoxy right with the rosewood dust, and that'll make the epoxy turn a nice thick brown, which is what I'm looking for. Once I've got that in place, I'm going to spread that epoxy all over the back of this plate. Now it's actually going to go farther than the headstock actually goes, and that's okay, because I want to make sure I get all the spots. We don't want any gaps. Gaps are not good. You'll create a weak spot in the head plate, which we don't want. You notice I'm using quite a bit, because I want it to seep out the edges. So you'll seal the edges nice and tight. I'm avoiding that one area around the truss rod cover hole a little bit. I don't want to get any glue going in there. Trying to keep this stuff off my fingers. It's kind of tough to do, but I'm trying. Because boy, this stuff just gets everywhere, and if it gets on your clothes or anything, well, they're gone. So I'm just going to wipe off that area around the truss rod. Keep that area a little on the thin side. Now, just lay that down onto the headstock and clamp it within an inch of its life. Very important you get the clamps right and tight, because you want to make sure that this really gets on there and stays tight. So we're going to use about 5 clamps. First one, let's get this glue out of the way. First one's the important one, and it looks like we're lined up pretty good. The whole headstock is covered. Now after this dries, what I'm going to do is come back and trim the rosewood to the headstock, and that'll be then I will be sure for a fact that it matches the headstock shape. I don't have to guess, I don't have to measure. It's much easier to do this way. I'm also making sure that I'm covering the entire headstock with this plate, because that would be bad if I didn't. You can just see how many clamps I'm putting on here. I'm putting a lot of clamping on here. I want to make sure I get a nice tight seam. And I'm going to kind of look around, make sure everything's been covered. And it looks pretty tight. It looks pretty good. And let's put another one up here. Okay, that looks good. And maybe I'll put another one right here. Alrighty. Well, that looks pretty good. Now, once again, the waiting game. I'll probably let this dry overnight, and then when I get in the morning, I'll trim it back, and we'll catch up, and you'll get to see that done too.